Hello, everybody. So today I'm gonna talk a little bit about pen and ink. Can I read that? We are going to go over some techniques. Oh, come on. We're going to go over some techniques about how to shade using a pen. I know a lot of you are probably really used to shading with a pencil. It's not super easy, but you kind of have the softness of the lead to help you shade. But when it comes to a pen, obviously we are using ink, and with ink we kind of just have like one shade, right? Like no matter how I use the pen, when I draw, the ink is always going to look like that. However, you can shade with ink, and we're going to look at some really cool ways to do that. I will be uploading these. I'm going to scan in and upload these worksheets to Google Classroom. They look just like this. They've got these crazy birds on them, but this will kind of explain the techniques a little more. But for now, I am going to kind of show you how some of these techniques work. I'm just going to kind of readjust my station here. There we go. Okay, so the first technique that we have is contour lines. And also, before I get started, if you want to, especially if you're working from home, if you just want to get a pen out and do this along with me, this is going to be your grade for today, these techniques. Since you probably can't print off the worksheet that I'm going to post, this can serve as your practice, your final product that you turn in. So just make sure to follow along with this, and then take a picture of that, turn it in, and that will be your practice for the day. Anyways, okay, so the first one is contour lines. And when we use contour lines, these are basically smooth flowing, pen strokes that can go around curved objects or polished surfaces. It's just like one fluid motion. So if I draw a circle, and we can pretend this is like a glass circle, I will just shade like this. So kind of following the contours of the sphere. And you can see how on this worksheet they do it a little better because they leave some spaces in the circle when they draw. If you're at home and you don't have a fancy pen like this, honestly, I find Bic pens, the 50-cent really cheap pens, to be really great for doing this. So if you just have a pen laying around at home, that's going to work fine. You don't need a super fancy pen like this one. So you got that middle line, and I'm just following the contour of the shape. Alright, that's kind of the gist of it. Cross hatching. Well, let's go to parallel lines. Parallel lines. So these lines are, instead of the contour like we had drawn the shape, the parallel lines, we're going to just pretend there's a circle here. You can draw one with a pencil if you want. Here, I'll go ahead and draw it with you. Might be a little easier to see that way if I have a pencil. There we go. So it might help for this one if you want to draw a little circle, but you don't have to. Wow, this pencil does not work. Awesome. So for parallel lines, I'm going to go ahead and draw this circle, and you can do this too, but you don't have to. But I would shade just like this. And one thing to note with pen and ink is as you move these lines, like see how they're closer together and that gives me more value. That's one thing about pen and ink is like the closer together you have a line, the darker the value, but you can move out and then it gets lighter. So it's kind of like our value scale, right? Anyway, so this technique would just use parallel lines like that. Then we have cross-hatching, which I really like cross-hatching. It makes a lot of sense in my head. So you could go ahead and draw a circle, and cross-hatching is basically like where you have a vertical line and then you can have like a horizontal line. You can also cross-hatch diagonally. So if you can see, I can make a value scale like I did before, but I can cross-hatch, so it gives me even more value. Awesome. And that's right here on our worksheet. So this one is really good for heavy shadows. You can mess around with textures with this technique. Yeah, cross-hatching is great. Cool. So the next one we have is stippling. This one's super fun. In the classroom, you'll just hear a bunch of that for about an hour, but so stippling is literally just taking your pen and doing this. So you can shade. This one takes a while. It's a little bit time heavy, but you know, it usually ends up looking really good when people do it. So it's kind of like one of those things that takes a lot of time, but it's worth the effort. And if you have like a drawing and you have a lot of texture in it, this is a great way to go. This can create like a lot of texture. So you can see I'm kind of making like a value scale of sorts down there. Cool. Scribbling. Scribbling is a lot of fun. It is literally scribbling. So see, I am creating a circle and I'm scribbling it to shade. This looks good if you like to be kind of loose with your drawings. You can see the example here. It's kind of funny. But yeah, this is a good way to sketch like quickly if you want to be fast, like if you're trying to get an idea down really quickly. You can totally use this for a final product, like final project, but sometimes if you are just practicing shading, just get all those tones in, scribbling can be great. The next one is wavy lines. And this one kind of, this one's great for patterns like wood patterns, water rings, marble, stuff like that. You can see this example down here has, I don't know, it kind of looks like a topographic map. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those. But if you have your circle, you can just draw wavy lines to shade. And maybe some of these lines would be shaded in. Awesome. So you can see the example here. This also kind of follows the contour of the face of this bird. You can kind of see how these wavy lines follow the shape of like the bird's neck and the beak. So this is really great if you want to do that, like if you want to follow those contours. If you've ever done that project kind of thing where you take your hand and you trace it and then you draw all those lines over it and you take your marker and it makes it look like your hand is sticking out. This is similar to that. It's not the same exact thing, but it is similar. Cool. So the last one we're going to look at is crisscross lines. And this one's kind of fun too. I like the scribbling and crisscross. Those are two of my favorites. But this is kind of fun because, I mean, you can just kind of like follow things directionally. You can see how the person that drew this bird, they followed the direction of the fur pattern, like the hair or the feathers, I guess, because it's a bird. But they followed that direction with these crisscross lines. These lines don't have to be uniform. They can just kind of be wild. But if you have kind of like these wavy lines follow the contour of the beak and the body, these feathers, you can kind of follow that contour to see how in the end they've got the feathers going like this a little bit, and where they meet up, that's creating a lot of value. Yeah, so these two worksheets will be really helpful for our pen and ink. This is another one I'm going to hand out that kind of gives a nice visual. We're just using pens today, but soon I will show you some other tools you can use with pen and ink, including fountain pens, if any of you have ever been interested in that. Typically, you'd use those for calligraphy, but we can use those to shade as well. And that's what someone has done here, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But yeah, so you can see all these different types of line. Pretty cool. Awesome. So today we're just going to work on creating value scales and practicing these techniques. If you have any questions, just email me, send me a text on Remind 101. If you're at home and you don't have Remind 101 set up already, I would really recommend that, because it's an easy way for you can text me on your phone. Through that, I've got it up on my computer every day that I'm in here, so I can see if somebody has messaged me. I can send you a quick response back. Some other students have been utilizing this, and it's been really great because I've been able to kind of explain how to do a project or answer their questions really quickly. So yeah, if you're working from home, I would definitely think about signing up for Remind 101. And those class codes for Remind 101 are on our Google Classroom. You may just have to scroll down a couple posts, but I posted them twice. Okay, cool. So that is it for me. Yeah, if you have questions, please message me. And I hope you like pen and ink.